Hi, Nats.
Hi.
So I thought we could start by me reading this gorgeous quote that you sent me the other day. It's by
Absolutely.
Jaya John. It is
Mm,
not that we have so much to learn, it is that we have so much to remember. We are alive in the colonizing centuries of the great forgetting. Let us journey now into this new era upon us of the great remembering. We need teachers gifted not at cold instruction, but at loving reunion. We need homecoming.
mhm.
So that moved me profoundly. And I feel like it's what we do for each other day after day via WhatsApp voice message. So we've been friends for about 45 years,
Yeah.
but we haven't seen each other since Byron, your firstborn, was a toddler. So that's been how long? How old is he now?
Oh, he will be turning 23 on Tuesday, this Tuesday.
So we haven't been together for 20 years.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it kind of breaks my heart. Gotta be
Yeah, it
honest.
does. Because time just goes and you always think, well, I always think that, oh, I'll get there, I'll do it, and then before you know it,
We're
time's
two
gone.
middle-aged ladies starting a podcast. Because what else are you gonna do?
Hey, we need more middle-aged ladies to start a podcast.
It's our turn.
But
So, my
yeah,
friend, I posed a few tricky questions to you in the run up to
okay.
this. Namely,
Sure.
namely, what are you struggling with at the moment and how are you getting through? What is it that you're doing to keep living?
Well, I mean, I can go in very different directions with this question, as you may already know. But after thinking about it for a while, I think I have to really come to terms with this middle-agedness that I thought I'd never hit because I feel still like I'm 18. And yet everything else is telling me I'm not. And as much as I'd like to stay in my past, which some parts of my past, as far as youth is goes, um, there is this somethingness, if I can put it in vague terms, that you just encounter. And
Mm.
that's what happened to me, especially last year. I think the last 4 years, I started realizing there was some sort of transitioning or transformation that needed to take place. And I didn't know what it was. And I kind of ignored it for a while until last year, the beginning of last year, it just kind of hit me. And unbeknownst to me, I just felt like I had this, this very cliched mental breakdown, whatever you want to call it, midlife crisis, all those labels and cliches we put ourselves into. But I mean, it
They're
kind of
cliched
was
because they're true.
because they true.
Yeah. It's so awful to realize you're just a stereotype.
I I
Yeah.
love that though, because aren't we all just so normal after all? We're all the same, we're all one. But yet in my mind, I'm thinking I'm different and it's not going to happen to me and I can push through this and it's not going to affect me because, I'm more powerful than life. I'm really not, but you know what I mean? It's just my
Yeah.
mental brain poking me through this change. And so, but I mean, I couldn't ignore it anymore because it was right in my face and it started affecting everything, especially my relationship with my husband, who I've been married to for 25 years. Besides our relationship, that's the next longest relationship I've ever had. And I'm not including my actual family, like my sisters and stuff, but just this one-on-one, you know me through and through, you know my soul, I know you. Yeah, I think that's where it hit first, is with my marriage. And then I noticed some things as my children are getting older and moving out of the house, that any issues that I didn't come to term with in my youth and adulthood
Yeah.
was landing on them
Yeah.
and realizing that I need to take care of my stuff so that I can help them through theirs because I started noticing the issues and problems that I was dealing with as a youth into adulthood. It showed up in them. And I think that was my motivation to do something about whatever this is that's happening to me so that I could be readily available to them
Mm.
and, open authentically,
Yeah.
um, and accepting them exactly for who they are and not having this preconceived idea of this is how I raised you. This is what you need to go do. This is the school you need to go to. I want you to be successful. I mean, what does success really look like?
Yeah.
That was my major questions, just questioning everything all over again.
This is
What
so
we've been,
us. Like we just go straight into the crux of the matter without any context. So to give people some context, the
please
reason
do.
we haven't seen each other for this amount of time is because you live in Utah and I
Yes,
live in Cape Town. But we were
yes,
friends since almost birth from Pretoria days. And
yes,
we were both born into the Mormon church. So
yes,
you're
very
still
much.
living that life, which to me feels like a dream from a former life.
Yeah.
And how many children do you have, Natalie?
I have 5 children. Now, let me backpedal here. Okay, two things. I never felt comfortable in the Mormon church. I'll just be straight up honest. But yet, still the quote unquote fear of what happens when I leave? Where's my community? Where's my spirituality? And I've struggled that since I remember as a little girl. And second of all, I never saw myself as a mother.
Wow.
I never thought I would have children. And then, however, when my first was born, it like changed. I'm like, okay, this is me. This is my calling. This is where I fit in. Like, I love it. And I
And I saw
think,
you guys in action, and you were just like the best team. You and your
oh,
boy, like just the best buddies I've ever
I,
seen. Yeah.
I do love them, and I do love being their mom. And but I'm constantly reminded of my flaws. I remind myself of my flaws because I think I put this expectation on myself a little bit to, you know, be all for them, which is of course unattainable and a little bit impossible, but I
And
still
wouldn't be
try.
good for them. Let's be
No,
honest.
no,
No
no,
matter
no.
how
And I have
amazing you are,
tried.
and you are.
I've tried. I've tried and it backfired to be blunt.
Mm.
So, I
Yeah.
think we come back to this theme of authenticity
Yeah.
and what does that look like to each person. I read this little quote from Dr. Julie Hanks, and I'd love to share it with you if that's okay. It's very
Mhm.
small. It's not really a quote. It's just more of a definition. And it's about differentiation, differentiation of self. And it says, I can be different than you, but we can still be connected.
Mm.
And I think this is the theme that's going on in my life now, especially starting heavily last year. And to be able to feel that I can, allowing myself to be different, because I think that theme has been in my life since a little girl, or in my head, anyways. But, and then thinking that how can I connect with somebody else who is so different to me or who believes in such different things or so many different things. I struggled with that. And I think of the whole of last year, I pretty much isolated myself trying to figure out
Yeah.
that question and just now
Yeah.
slowly starting to build a foundation.
And again, I think it's pretty typical. I think that's what the long dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it, that is part of a midlife crisis, is
Yeah.
that feeling of isolation and like, wait, who is my tribe, if anyone? And
Yes.
yeah, I felt it too. I also felt profoundly lonely, and that's actually what pulled us, I think, back together again.
Absolutely.
Was that feeling of being so alone,
Yes.
when clearly that's a lie of the mind. It's a total ego trip because,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we've already covered, we're all so much more alike than we are different. But I loved you highlighting that difference now. So how is that playing out for you specifically at the moment in your relationships and your struggles at the moment? Look at me.
That's a wonderful, wonderful question.
Yeah.
I can answer that now. A couple of months ago, I'm not sure if I had an answer for that. And I think it just boils down to courage,
Mm,
that thing that you know you should do that you're too afraid of doing,
mm.
and stepping out of my comfort zone and kind of going against the grain, just because it feels wrong doesn't mean it's wrong. And just because it feels right doesn't mean it's right. Just questioning that.
But what else
And
do we have? So this is my
yeah.
like, because I'm really trying to rewild myself and
Mm,
come home to my body and follow Audre Lorde's advice around it feels right to me being my erotic power, my knowing, um, that kind of, somatic lived experience. So what do we do with that? Because I agree with you, it's complicated. So
yes.
just because it doesn't feel right doesn't mean it isn't right, and just because it feels right. How do we navigate that? What are we going to do with that complexity?
Mm. For me personally, I really needed to get in touch with my inner voice
Mm,
and be true to that, and just have that awareness, constant awareness, saying, because I'm struggling with reaching out to other people that may not agree with me, that may think very differently than I do, or I might have some preconceived judgment on how that person lives their life, whatever the situation may be. That's the direction to go. To step out of my own thought patterns, what I consider to be, this is my no, this is my, I've lived so many years, I know what's right and wrong. And to challenge that, it's always being in
mm.
this unrest of challenge. And I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable with this idea of becoming uncomfortable,
Oh yeah,
stepping out of the comfort zone. And I think there's no growth until we do.
yeah,
And the biggest lesson I've learned is to sit with um, people I completely disagree with in some way, shape, or form, and meeting them halfway and being able to forget myself for a moment
yeah.
and uh, and be curious about their lives and be curious about why they think the way they think. And what I've come to find is, at the end of the day, we're all pretty much still the same, even though we have complete, extreme thinking patterns or ways of living or whatever the situation may be. And I find it's just coming back to humanity again. But it is an uncomfortable place to be. And it's allowing yourself to be uncomfortable and going out of your comfort zone and connecting to the unknown.
Mm.
And I think it's really easy for me personally to stay with what I know because I have, quote unquote, proof
Mm.
that I'm right. And
Yeah.
don't we all?
Oh, we love
Yeah,
to be right.
yeah,
We
absolutely.
love to be know-it-alls. But I mean, you're
Yeah,
touching on my favorite principles. That's why you saw me nodding my head off. Like, stay curious, don't know mind, which is a Zen principle. It's the foundation of everything. Because I think the minute you think you know, you're in big trouble. You're just
yeah,
cutting off reality, or such as it is, or
yeah,
options, change, which is
yeah.
which is the only truth, is change, right? I mean, I've just made this my screensaver. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little
Oh,
cat, and it says, "You
you will
will
change.
change." And I find it so comforting because
Mm,
that is the gospel truth.
yeah.
The only sure thing is anicca, impermanence, change.
Mm,
That applies to everything, including ourselves. And I know when I get depressed, it's because I think things will stay the same. I think I'm going to be like this forever, or the situation's going to be like this forever. Oh my word, what absolute nonsense, you know?
yeah,
Like it's all in flux, and thank God. Thank
yeah.
God we're
Thank
part of
yeah.
something much bigger than our little narrow perspective. Yeah, yeah,
100%,
yeah,
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And
yeah.
I think you've touched on one word, and then I would like to add another one, and that is that impermanence.
Mm,
Being comfortable with that and realizing that this too shall pass, and nothing stays the same, even though we try very hard to make it stay the same.
yeah.
And the other word for me personally is something I'm always striving for is equanimity.
Ah,
Um, I
absolutely.
mean, I feel like having equanimity amongst the impermanence is where it's at,
So
you
you see
know?
me
And
laughing because I'd kidded myself for a while there that I was very equanimous. But I think what it really was burnout. I think that I was just too tired to feel any feelings. So I was
yeah,
just shut down and dissociated, I think, for a
yeah,
while, maybe a few
right.
years even. Like, trauma can induce these altered states where you can think, oh, I'm pretty enlightened now because I'm not reacting. But are you
Yeah,
also like really are you showing up? Are you feeling your
yeah,
feelings? Because I really think that's the joy of being embodied is we get to have all this messy feeling experience that you
yeah,
can't intellectualize away. You just got
yeah,
to move through it and allow it to come and go. And that's equanimity. You allow the bliss to come, you allow the shit to come, you allow it all and to go because it's inevitable, you know? Yeah.
I'm taking this in. I think it's truth is spoken. I feel it. What you say is absolutely true. And don't we all want to numb ourselves out a little bit
Oh,
and then
yeah.
pass it as I'm enlightened. I mean, I've done that many times myself. Yeah, it's just hard to keep yourself in check, you know. And but then again, so when I was doing my yoga training, there's this one concept that always stuck with me, and this is yielding. You're not contracted or stiffened, and you don't collapse. But there's an in-between state, and that is to healed, where
Mm.
you're grounded,
Mm.
but you're not tense. You're engaged, but not to the point where you are not being able to, heal to whatever comes, and then not collapsing, not being so, how's the word? Not relaxed, but so disengaged that you're completely relaxed where you're not healed it again. So I don't know if that makes sense,
No, I
but just
love
this
that.
state
Yeah.
of being too healed.
But it's exactly the principle. So I teach Qigong and I've been teaching them a little bit of Tai Chi in it. And there's a posture in Tai Chi ward off where your hand is opposite your heart. But it needs to be not too close, not too far, and certainly not brittle because then it'll just break. It has to yield. It has to and so it's this kind of like effortless action again that we get from the Tao Te Ching of Wu Wei of just allowing yourself to be part of the whole, which is whole. You don't need to uh, our Western minds really can't conceive of this because we think we're the center of it all. And that
Absolutely. Yeah.
we do have incredible capacity to create and destroy. Absolutely, I agree. But at the same time, how's our capacity to really surrender into the moment? And I know when I do, it is such a relief. You can just feel your nervous system say, thank you for remembering you are part of a family of things, as Mary Oliver would say. You're not the center of it all. You're just
Yeah.
part of it all, you know?
Yeah.
That
Beautiful.
perspective is just so profoundly healing. Gosh, I see we've
Absolutely.
already managed to chat away. Is there anything you want to conclude with? Every conversation with you, I said to my husband earlier, is like the best conversation I've ever had,
Oh,
which is why we wanted to do this, because we're like,
yes.
other people need to benefit from our incredible wit and wisdom. Because we
Well,
laugh a lot too, and we cry. We do the whole kit and caboodle.
yeah,
There's
but
space.
isn't laughter very important too? We take
Yeah.
ourselves too seriously sometimes. I
Yeah.
know I do, and I get so into the thick of it that, sometimes you just have to laugh.
Well, I mean, those are my memories of us is talking
Yeah.
all night, laughing and crying and laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, you made me literally wet myself laughing. Do you remember? At Loftus Versfeld, were we there for rugby? I can't imagine. But
Oh
you
my
remember
goodness.
there were long
You are
queues
bringing
at
up
the
some
bathroom
memories.
and I couldn't get into the bathroom. And you made me laugh like no one. And then I wet myself. So well done, you.
Oh,
You
thank
literally
you.
made me wet myself.
I think I did something good then, you know?
Yeah, really. It's a fun memory now. Maybe not at the time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It makes me remember myself a little bit more, back in the
Yeah.
day to get back to that again.
Yeah.
But I would like to end with something, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And just going back to how I started this last year, and I was drawn to this book, and it's called Vibrate Higher Daily
Mm,
by Lala Delia.
mm,
And I just want to read something from a book that really resonated with me. It says, "It's time to rise into your empowerment and purpose. And though you may be scared and have repeatedly doubted yourself, surrender to the path. Realize that being trapped in fear is more exhausting and frustrating than moving forward into the unknown and your empowerment. Journey beyond those voices within that are discouraging you, the ones that may say you can't rise above whatever or wherever you are or have been. Open up to a new and better expression of your life."
Ah, I think that's the perfect ways to leave it.
Yeah.
I just love you to bits. Thank you, my friend.
Love you. Thank you so much for this, Charisse. I appreciate it. So
Thanks
great
for
to see
making it happen. You kind of
you.
egged me on somewhat.
And I